What is up guys, it's Cal, and in this video we'll be taking a look at Holy Priests on the Battle for Azeroth beta. We're going to be checking out their baseline abilities and passives, as well as their talents and PvP talents, and see how they differ from live. Now just like my other overview videos, the purpose of this video is not to tell you which talents to pick for the best healing, or if Holy is better than Disciplined healing. This is just to show you what's to come. So, let's get started. So here are all the baseline abilities for Holy Priests. Let's start off with the Leap of Faith, which is not changed at all. Some of these beginning abilities won't be changed at all. This still has a 1.5 minute cooldown, and you use it on friendly targets and they get pulled to you. Mass Resurrection, not changed at all. It still reses all party members back to life. Resurrection also not changed, big surprise. Still reses someone to 35% health and mana. Dispel Magic, not changed at all. Still dispels magic on the enemy target, removing one beneficial magic effect. Purify is also not changed. Still has an 8-second cooldown. You dispel harmful effects on the target, removing all magic and disease effects. Now Mass Dispel, the only change to Mass Dispel is its cooldown has been increased from 15 seconds up to 45 seconds. Its effect is still the same thing. 15-yard range, it removes all harmful magic effects from 5 friendly targets and 1 beneficial magic effect from up to 5 enemy targets. And it can remove magic effects which usually couldn't be removed, like Paladin bubbles and whatnot. Fade is unchanged, still a 30-second cooldown, and it removes all your threats for 10 seconds. So Symbol of Hope is now baseline, because in live, it is a talent. So its cooldown is being reduced from 6 minutes to 5 minutes, and its effect has changed a bit. So you bolster the morale of all healers in your party or raid within 40 yards, restoring 2% of their missing mana every 1 second for 6 seconds. So it will no longer allow healers to cast spells for no mana for 12 seconds, which is what it does on live. Desperate Prayer has changed slightly, so its cooldown is still 1.5 minutes, but it will increase maximum health by 25% for 10 seconds, which that's 30% on live, and instantly heals you for that amount, so it will no longer diminish by 2% a second. Now Guardian Spirit has been buffed. Its effect is pretty much the same thing. Its cooldown is just being reduced from 4 minutes to 3 minutes, and it increases the healing on the target by 60%, up from 40% on live. Other than that, it does the same thing. Now Divine Hymn is unchanged, still a 3-minute cooldown, heals all party or raid members within 40 yards for some amount of health over some amount of seconds, and increases healing done to them by 10% for 8 seconds, healing increased by 100% when not in a raid. That is the same on live. Shackle Undead is also unchanged. You can still shackle an undead target's enemy for 50 seconds and it prevents them from doing anything, and then damage will of course cancel the effect. Now as far as a bunch of these heals go, pretty much none of them have been changed, so we're just going to go through them fast here. Heal does the same thing. It's just a normal heal. Flash Heal does the same thing. Still a short cast time, heals slightly less than the previous ability. Holy Word Sanctify is not changed. It's still a 1-minute cooldown. Release Miraculous Light at a target's location, healing up to 6 allies within 10 yards for some amount. Now Serendipity, which is a passive for Holy Priest that essentially says if you cast this ability, it reduces the cooldown of this ability by 6 seconds. Well, Serendipity as a passive ability is going away, but each of those effects have been baked into each of the abilities, if that makes sense. So if you see there on the tooltip, it says cooldown reduced by 6 seconds when you cast Prayer of Healing and by 2 seconds when you cast Renew. Well, that Renew part is added. But anyways, that's what Serendipity did on live, but it's just been baked into each of the abilities. Holy Word Serenity, still a 1-minute cooldown, heals the target for a lot of health, and then as you see, same thing with Serendipity, cooldown reduced by 6 seconds when you cast Heal or Flash Heal. Prayer of Healing is unchanged, a powerful prayer that heals the target and the 4 nearest allies within 40 yards for some amount of health. Prayer of Mending is also unchanged. Its cooldown is still based off of your haste. Places a ward on the target. If they get hurt, they get healed, and then jumps to another ally within 20 yards, and then it can jump up to 5 times, and it lasts 30 seconds after each jump. Renew is unchanged. Fills the target with Faith in the Light, healing them instantly for some amount of health, and then it is a hot. Smite, also unchanged. Smites an enemy for some holy damage and has a 20% chance to reset the cooldown of Holy Fire. And then Holy Fire, still a 10-second cooldown, deals holy damage, and then as a dot, stacks up to 2 times. Now Holy Nova, the only change to Holy Nova is it will go back to healing allies, because that effect was actually removed in Legion, I believe. When Legion came out, it changed Holy Nova to only being able to damage enemies around you. Now it can heal allies around you, and it still has a 20% chance to reset the cooldown of Holy Fire if any targets are hit. Now Psychic Scream is new to Holy because this was, I believe, only a Discipline and Shadow Priest ability. Well, now Holy Priests get it. 1-minute cooldown, lets out a Psychic Scream causing 5 enemies within 8 yards to flee, disorienting them for 8 seconds. Damage may interrupt this effect. And then for Holy Word Chastise, still a 1-minute cooldown. The only difference to it is that it incapacitates the target for 4 seconds, whereas on live that's 5 seconds. And the cooldown is reduced by 4 seconds when you cast Smite, whereas on live I believe it's 6 seconds. So just a small nerf there. And then Power Word Fortitude is returning for all priests across the board. Some classes are getting the raid buffs back. Priests are one of them. You use it and it'll increase your stamina by 10% for an hour, or if you're in a part of your raid, you can use it and it'll increase everyone's stamina by 10% for an hour. Mind Control is unchanged. You can still control a target's mind. That's one level above you for 30 seconds. And then Levitate is also unchanged. You use it on targets. They can walk across water for 10 minutes. They get slow fall for 10 minutes. All that. Now let's take a look at the passive abilities, which actually aren't changed at all. As I said, Serendipity is not here anymore. It is now baked into those abilities, but Focus Will is unchanged. Melee attacks against you cause you to gain Focus Will, reducing damage you take by 15% for 8 seconds, stacking up to 2 times. Your Mastery still causes your direct healing spells to heal for an additional some amount over 6 seconds, and then Spirit of Redemption is unchanged. When you die, you become the Spirit of Redemption for 15 seconds, which means you can't move, you can't attack, you can't be attacked, or be targeted by any spells of whatnot. Your healing spells cost no mana, and when the effect ends, you die. Now let's talk about the talents, which there aren't as many changes as Shadow, but there are still a good amount of changes. This first tier actually has no changes whatsoever. They just changed the order these are in for some reason. But Enlighten still increases your mana regeneration by 10%. Trail of Light, when you cast Flash Heal, 40% of the healing is replicated to the previous target you healed with Flash Heal. And there's Enduring Renewal. Your single target healing spells refresh the duration of your renew on the target. The level 30 tier only has one change to it, but it's not Angelic Feather. Angelic Feather is the same. Still has 3 charges. 20-second recharge, you can put feathers down, people can run through them, and it increases their movement speed by 40% for 5 seconds. Angel's Mercy is new, though it was pretty much the same thing as your artifact trait, Times and Measures. Except what Times and Measures did is that it had a chance to reset the cooldown of Desperate Prayer when you got attacked. We won't have artifact weapons anymore, but what Angel's Mercy does as a talent is damage you take reduces the cooldown of Desperate Prayer. How much it reduces the cooldown? Who knows? Perseverance is unchanged. When you cast Renew on yourself, it reduces all damage you take by 10%. For the level 45 tier, Cosmic Ripple is a new talent, though it was an artifact trait. As I just mentioned, we won't have artifact weapons anymore, as we all know, so you'll have to do with the talent if you want to pick it. Its effect is not changed though. When Holy Word Serenity or Holy Word Sanctify finish their cooldown, you emit a burst of light that heals up to 5 injured targets for some amount of health. Guardian Angel was just moved up a tier, but it's not changed at all. When Guardian Spirit expires without saving the target from death, it reduces its remaining cooldown to 90 seconds. And then Afterlife is not changed at all. Increases the duration of Spirit of Redemption by 50%. Psychic Voice is now a holy talent because on live it's only a discipline or a shadow talent, but now Holy gets it because Holy does have Psychic Screen now. Reduces the cooldown of Psychic Screen by 30 seconds. That's what it does. Shining Force, the effect has not been changed at all. It was just moved down a tier. Still, a 45-second cooldown creates a burst of light around a friendly target, knocking away nearby enemies and slowing their movement speed by 70% for 3 seconds. And then Censure, the only change to it is that Holy Word Chastise stuns the target for 4 seconds, which is down from 5 seconds on live. And it's not broken by damage. The level 75 tier only has one change on it, but it's not Surge of Light. Surge of Light has not been changed at all. Still a passive, your healing spells and smart have an 8% chance to make your next flash heal instant and cost no mana, maximum of 2 charges. And then Binding Heal is also not changed. Heals you, your target, and another friendly target within 20 yards for some amount of healing. And then Serendipity's thing is baked in there as well. Reduces the remaining cooldown on both Holy Word Serenity and Holy Word Sanctify by 3 seconds. And then Circle of Healing is unchanged, but it was just moved up a couple tiers. It's still a cooldown based off your haste. Heals a target and 4 injured allies within 30 yards of the target for some amount of healing. This next tier, the only change is Benediction. It was just moved up a tier and slightly nerfed, I think. Your Prayer of Mending has a 30% chance to leave a renew on each target it heals. I believe on live that is 40%. Divine Star is unchanged, still a 15-second cooldown. You throw down Divine Star, it goes 24 yards, hurts enemies in its path, heals allies in its path, comes back towards you, hurts enemies in its path again, heals allies in its path again. Once again, unchanged. Halo is also unchanged, still a 40-second cooldown. It puts out a holy ring that expands up to 30 yards and it heals allies in that ring and deals damage to enemies in that ring as well. Now, Light of the Naru was moved down a few tiers to the last tier, but its effect was not changed at all, which is kind of strange to me because I feel like if they were to move something down to the last tier, they probably want to buff it at least. But nope. The cooldown of your holy words are reduced by an additional 2 seconds when you cast the relevant spells. Apotheosis is unchanged, still a 3-minute cooldown. You enter a pure holy form for 30 seconds, increasing the cooldown reductions of your holy words by 200% and then reducing their cost by 100%. And then Holy Word Salvation is new. It has a cooldown of 12 minutes. Heals all allies within 40 yards for some amount, applies renew, and 2 stacks of prayer mending to each of them. Now the cooldown is reduced by 30 seconds when you cast Holy Word Serenity and Holy Word Sanctify. so I guess that kind of cushions the 12-minute cooldown. Only slightly though. And then let's take a look at the PvP talents. If you did not watch my video going over how PvP talents will work in BFA, this is how it goes. You got 4 bubbles here. The first bubble is the same for all specs and all classes. It has Relentless, Gladiator's Medallion, and Adaptation, which are all on live. They all do the same thing. They're on the first tier on live. You get to pick between one of these 3. The next 3 bubbles are a giant pool of your already existing honor talents. They just pruned a couple of them off, so it's no longer on a tier system. So 3 that are currently on the same tier on live, you can pick them in BFA if you want. And all these names should look familiar to you because they are all honor talents on live, and pretty much all of them have not been changed. There's only one that has been changed very slightly, so I'm just going to read the names of them. If you want to know what they do, you can pause the video or look at your Holy Priest. And when I get to the one where the effect's been changed slightly, I will read the effect. So we have Holy Ward, Holy Concentration, Greater Heal, Rapid Mending, and then the only change to Rapid Mending is that Prayer of Mending's jump range is increased by 10 yards instead of on live that's 20 yards. Then there's Miracle Worker, Divine Attendant, Spirit of the Redeemer, Ray of Hope, Greater Fade, Inner Focus, Delivered from Evil. And those are all the PvP talents as well as all of the normal talents. And there you have it, all of the current changes to Holy coming in battle for Azeroth. And this is the beta, so everything is definitely subject to change before the final release, which is August 14th. Now there were some changes here and there, though it was a bit of a contrast to Shadow, which had like twice as many changes, but I'm curious as to what you guys think. Do you main a Holy Priest or a priest in general and are happy about the changes, or do you hate them? You can let me know in the comments below. But if you guys like this video, you can leave a like on it, you can sub to the channel for more videos like this, and I'll see you guys in the next video.